Let's unravel a historical mystery that challenges our very idea of what it means to be a king. In the rugged highlands and misty valleys of ancient Mesopotamia, a group known as the Gutians emerged from the shadows, leaving behind a legacy that still puzzles historians today. The Gutians, conquerors of Mesopotamia, had a king list that defies expectations and breaks all the usual rules. Unlike the grand dynasties of Sumer or Akkad, their records are filled with names that flicker in and out of history, sometimes ruling for only a handful of months. Their kings sometimes ruled for mere months, not decades. Some names are barely more than a whisper, scratched hastily onto clay, only to be replaced almost immediately. Some historians think king was more like a temporary war leader, not a hereditary monarch. The Gutians may have chosen their leaders based on strength, cunning, or charisma, rather than royal blood. This wasn't a dynasty, it was a revolving door of power, with leadership passing from one strongman to the next. Each new ruler brought their own ambitions, their own followers, and their own vision for the future. Imagine warlords or tribal chiefs taking turns at the top, each ruling until someone stronger came along. Power was always up for grabs, and alliances shifted as quickly as the seasons. The Gutians didn't build a stable empire. They ran a loose, unpredictable confederation. Their settlements sprawled across the land, often isolated and fiercely independent. Their society valued strength and charisma over bloodlines. Leadership was earned, not inherited, and only the most capable could hold on to power for long. This constant turnover made long-term planning and stability impossible. Cities were left unfinished, walls crumbled, and the future was always uncertain. Instead of a unified empire, they held together a patchwork of territories by force, negotiation, and sheer willpower. Each region kept its own identity, even as Gutian influence spread. The Gutians were outsiders who toppled the old order and ran things their own way. Their arrival marked a dramatic shift in the region's history, disrupting centuries of tradition. Their strange king list is our first clue that history isn't always what we expect. The Gutians remind us that power can take many forms, and that sometimes the kings who weren't really kings leave the most intriguing mysteries behind. Let's dig deeper. Who were the Gutians? Their name echoes through the ancient records of Mesopotamia, yet their true identity remains shrouded in mystery. For centuries, historians and archaeologists have puzzled over the fragments left behind, trying to piece together the story of these enigmatic people. The Gutians emerged from the formidable Zagros Mountains, a harsh and remote region that stood in stark contrast to the fertile cities and bustling trade routes of Mesopotamia. Their homeland was wild, untamed, and difficult to traverse, a natural barrier that kept them isolated from the lowland civilizations. To the Sumerians and Akkadians, the Gutians were the ultimate outsiders. They were seen as uncivilized, even savage, people who didn't farm the land, didn't build cities, and didn't worship the familiar gods of the plains. Instead, they followed their own customs, living by rules that seemed alien to their neighbors. The written records left by their enemies are filled with fear and contempt. Sumerian scribes describe the Gutians as a scourge, a destructive force that brought chaos and disorder wherever they went. Yet despite their impact, the Gutians themselves left almost no written records. Their voices are silent in the archaeological record, leaving us to wonder about their side of the story. All that we know comes from the hostile accounts of those they conquered, accounts that may be more propaganda than truth. Their language, their beliefs, and the details of their daily lives remain hidden, locked away in the mountains, and lost to time. The Gutians are a puzzle with many missing pieces. Were they truly the ruthless destroyers described by Sumerian scribes, or were they simply misunderstood, victims of history written by their adversaries? Perhaps they were something far more complex. Most likely the Gutians were tough, semi-nomadic tribes, perfectly adapted to the rugged mountain terrain. Their skills in mountain warfare and survival made them formidable opponents, able to strike swiftly and vanish into the hills. When the great cities of the plains grew weak, torn apart by internal strife and famine, the Gutians seized their opportunity, descending from the mountains to claim power. The story of the Gutians is a reminder that history is often written by the victors, and that the truth is rarely simple. Every conqueror, every so-called barbarian, has a story worth telling. The enigma of the Gutians, what little we know and all that we don't, is what makes them so endlessly fascinating to scholars and history lovers alike. Now let's journey deeper into the past and discover how these mysterious mountain folk managed to seize power in the heart of Mesopotamia. Before the Gutians, the Akkadian Empire ruled Mesopotamia, a vast, powerful state built by Sargon the Great. But empires crumble. By the late 23rd century BCE, Akkad was plagued by rebellions, overextension, and a devastating drought. Famine and chaos weakened the cities of the plains. The Gutians, watching from the mountains, saw their moment. Less affected by drought, they began with raids, then launched a full invasion. The Akkadian military, fractured and exhausted, couldn't resist. The Gutians didn't conquer a thriving empire, they filled a power vacuum. Their rise was slow and opportunistic, not a sudden onslaught. They were savvy, not mindless destroyers. The Gutians were the final push that toppled a crumbling giant. Context matters. They seized a moment of weakness, not a golden age. Their timing changed the course of history. Now, what did their rule look like? Let's find out. Sumerian accounts call Gutian rule a dark age. Chaos, neglected canals, and ruined temples. But was it really that simple? The Gutians weren't great administrators, but they didn't destroy everything. They ruled as military overlords, collecting tribute while leaving local rulers in charge. Think of it as a protection racket. The Gutians took the spoils, but the Sumerian cities kept running. Some regions suffered neglect, but others, like Lagash and saw a burst of independence and creativity. Freed from Akkadian control, these cities flourished in art and literature. The Gutian era was messy and unstable, but not a total collapse. For some, it was hardship. For others, opportunity. History isn't black and white. The Gutian rule was a complex transitional chapter. Let's meet the Gutian king, who tried to change everything. Enter Eridupazir. Most Gutian kings are just names in dusty chronicles, their deeds lost to time. But Eridupazir is different. He left behind something rare. Inscriptions in Akkadian, the language of empire, not his native Gutian tongue. This choice alone sets him apart, hinting at a ruler who understood the power of words and legacy. In his inscriptions, Eridupazir boldly called himself Mighty King, King of Gutium, King of the Four Quarters, the very same grand titles once claimed by the Akkadian emperors before him. By adopting these titles, he wasn't just boasting. He was making a statement to the world that he was the rightful successor to the great kings of Mesopotamia. Eridupazir wanted to be seen as a legitimate Mesopotamian ruler, not just a foreign conqueror. He understood that true power meant more than military might. It meant acceptance by the people and the gods of the land. To achieve this, he used clever propaganda, adopted local customs, and honored the ancient Sumerian gods. He participated in rituals, made offerings, and restored temples, showing respect for the traditions that had shaped the region for centuries. This was political genius. He tried to win over the conquered people by speaking their language both literally and figuratively. By commissioning scribes to write in Akkadian and using familiar symbols of authority, he bridged the gap between Gutian and Mesopotamian worlds. Thanks to these efforts, his reign was one of rare stability for the Gutians, a time when cities flourished and daily life could continue with some sense of normalcy. Eridupazir's story reveals that the Gutians weren't simply destroyers or outsiders. They could be sophisticated rulers, capable of adapting and even thriving in the heart of Mesopotamia. But after his death, the old pattern returned. The Gutian dynasty slipped back into chaos with short, unstable reigns and little to show for their time in power. For a brief moment though, the Gutians almost became true heirs to Akkad, holding the center of the ancient world in their hands. Eridupazir's reign challenges the old stereotype of the Gutians as mere barbarians. He showed ambition, vision, and a willingness to learn from those he ruled. He tried to build a lasting legacy, one that would outlive the chaos and destruction so often associated with his people. But what was life really like for ordinary people under Gutian rule? Did Eridupazir's reforms reach the streets and homes of the common folk, or were they just words carved in stone? Let's take a closer look at the daily lives of those who lived through this remarkable chapter in Mesopotamian history. History isn't just about kings, it's about everyday people. In Gutian times, a scribe in Umma recorded barley rations for palace weavers. This simple tablet shows that, despite upheaval, daily life continued. Sumerian officials still managed workshops, scribes kept records, and workers got paid. The Gutians ruled from above, but the machinery of civilization kept running. Most people's routines changed little, even as empires rose and fell. Civilization is resilient. The foundations endure even when rulers change. The Gutian Empire was a patchwork, not a monolith. To understand history, we must look beyond kings to the lives of ordinary people. The Gutian story ends with Tirigan, their last king, who ruled for just 40 days. Utu-Hengal of Uruk led a rebellion, rallying the Sumerian cities to overthrow their foreign overlords. Tirigan, caught off guard, fled, but was captured by villagers and handed over. Utu-Hengal paraded Tirigan in chains, symbolizing the end of Gutian rule. This dramatic reversal marked the start of the Neo-Sumerian Renaissance. Tirigan's brief reign became a legend, a warning to outsiders. The Gutian century of power ended as suddenly as it began. The cities of the plain reclaimed their independence, the pendulum of power swung back, but what became of the Gutians themselves? After Tirigan's fall, the Gutians vanished from history. No records of mass slaughter or migration, just silence. Most likely, Gutian referred to a loose confederation of mountain tribes. With their leadership broken, the tribes dissolved and retreated to the mountains. Some Gutians probably stayed, blending into the local population. Over generations, their identity faded through assimilation and intermarriage. They left no great cities, no art, no written language, only the memory of their rule. Their legacy was defined by their enemies. By toppling Akkad, they set the stage for a Sumerian revival. The Gutians are a crucial, if invisible, chapter in civilization's story. Their disappearance is history's final mystery. The Gutian Empire is why history fascinates me, a puzzle with missing pieces. They came from nowhere, seized an empire, and vanished. Their story challenges our ideas about power, empire, and civilization. The Gutians shattered Akkad and paved the way for a Sumerian renaissance. They proved that outsiders can change the world. Every artifact and inscription is a clue to lost stories like theirs. The adventure is in the search, the questions, and the surprises. Keep digging, keep questioning, and look for the voices history tried to erase. There are more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Let's keep exploring together.